Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving back into some malicious compliance stories. Today we've got 3 tales of people who refused to back down when pushed and let the consequences land where they belonged. One involves a dishwasher who quit mid-shift and came back as a customer, another a sister who refused to carry her sibling's secret, and the last a couple who learned that paperwork outlasts moving trucks. Here we go. I quit on the spot. An hour later, I walked in as a customer and watched him drown. Back around 2000, I was a freshman in college trying very hard not to drown financially. I came from a family that valued education but didn't exactly have a secret vault of gold coins to dip into. My grades had landed me some solid scholarships, but scholarships don't pay for late-night pizza, laundry, or the 1,000 tiny expenses that pop up when you're living on campus. So I worked about 20 hours a week to make it all balance. I ended up in the school cafeteria as a dishwasher. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid a little more than most student jobs and came with a free meal every shift, which honestly felt like a luxury. There were a few full-time staff members who handled the clean side of the massive conveyor belt dishwasher, and they were genuinely good people. They treated us student workers like actual co-workers instead of disposable labor. The dish room itself was divided into stations. The first spot on the conveyor was the triage zone, where someone pulled silverware, cups, and random garbage off trays as they came in. The second spot was rinsing and stacking dishes before they went into the washer. The third was loading the washer itself, making sure everything went through properly. The full-time guys got the clean, dry end. The rest of us students rotated through the messy 3 positions. It wasn't exactly a dream job, but there was a rhythm to it. During my first quarter, things ran smoothly despite being a little shorthanded. The group I usually worked with, 2 other students named Marcus and Alicia, figured out pretty quickly where each of us was fastest. When the dinner rush hit and trays started piling up like a porcelain avalanche, we'd naturally slide into the spots where we worked best. When things slowed down, we rotated to break up the monotony and keep it fair. We were efficient, we were organized. We didn't drown in chaos. Then second quarter rolled around and someone in upper management decided what we really needed was a dish room supervisor. Enter Kevin. Kevin was hired as a full-time staff member, which technically put him in charge of us. He was maybe late 20s, early 30s, and he had the energy of someone who deeply resented being in a cafeteria at all. Within a week, we realized his supervisory style consisted mostly of disappearing for long stretches and then reappearing to criticize. He would routinely vanish for 1 or 2 hours at a time, allegedly on break, which was impressive considering his entire shift felt like one extended break. When he did show up, he'd lean against the wall with a soda in hand and bark instructions we were already following. None of it improved anything. One night, the cafeteria was especially slammed. We were short 1 student worker and trays were stacking up at the drop-off. Marcus automatically slid into the first conveyor spot because he was fastest at clearing silverware. Alicia took rinsing because she had the best rhythm there. I jumped on loading because I could keep the machine cycling without jams. We were in our groove. Kevin stormed in about 30 minutes into the rush and surveyed the scene like a general inspecting troops. "Who told you to stand there?" he snapped at me. I blinked. "We're in our usual spots. It works best when we're busy." "That's not how it's going to be tonight," he said. "I assign positions." Marcus tried to chime in. "We've been doing it this way all quarter. We clear faster like this." Kevin cut him off. "I didn't ask for commentary." "You," he pointed at Marcus, "go load the washer." "You," to Alicia, "take first spot." And you, stabbing a finger toward me, rinsing. For context, Marcus was painfully slow at loading because he overthought placement. Alicia hated first spot because she got overwhelmed by the mess. I was decent at rinsing, but it wasn't my fastest roll. I tried one more time. "If we switch right now, we're going to get buried. We've been through this before. It's better if—" "Shut up," Kevin snapped. "You either do what I say or you can quit." The conveyor belt hummed behind us, trays clattering. Students were already lining up at the drop-off. I looked at Marcus. I looked at Alicia. I looked at Kevin, who seemed extremely proud of himself. "Okay," I said. Kevin smirked like he'd won something. I quit. I pulled off my apron and gloves, set them on the counter, and walked straight out the door. I didn't storm, I didn't yell. I just clocked out. I went back to my dorm, changed clothes, and about 45 minutes later, I wandered back into the cafeteria as a customer. I grabbed a tray and joined the dinner line like nothing had happened. When I got to the tray drop-off area with my food, I saw absolute chaos. Dishes were piling up, silverware was mixed with trash, the conveyor was jammed, and Kevin, who'd clearly been forced by necessity into the first conveyor spot, was frantically trying to clear trays while muttering under his breath. He looked up as I approached with my own tray. We locked eyes. I gave him the friendliest smile I could manage and gently set my tray down. "Busy night?" I asked. He didn't respond. I walked away with my free meal, found a seat where I had a perfect view of the dish room, and enjoyed dinner while watching him scramble. For once, he wasn't leaning against a wall barking orders. He was elbow deep in leftover mashed potatoes. He wanted to be in charge, to assign positions, to prove his authority. You gave him exactly what he asked for. You left. And then you came back as a customer and watched him do the job he thought was beneath him. There's no arguing with that, no policy to hide behind, just a dish room full of chaos and a former employee enjoying dinner with a front row seat. Later that week, I apologized to Marcus and Alicia for leaving them hanging. Marcus just laughed. Honestly, it was worth it to see him actually work. Alicia nodded. He was weirdly nice after that. Apparently, Kevin toned it down significantly. He stopped micromanaging spots. He stopped disappearing for marathon breaks. He even asked politely where people preferred to work. Neither Marcus nor Alicia lasted much longer in that job, but they both told me Kevin treated them differently after my exit. Whether it was fear of losing more staff or simply being forced to experience the mess himself, something shifted. As for me, I found another campus job within a couple weeks. It didn't come with free meals, but it also didn't come with Kevin. Sometimes the best way to win an argument isn't to argue at all. Sometimes it's to take off the apron, walk out, and let the self-appointed supervisor handle the mess they insisted on creating. And sometimes you get to enjoy dinner and a show at the same time. And our second story. She said I always ruin everything. Would I ruin her lies? Her husband deserved to know. I'm 26, my sister is 32. We've never exactly been best friends, and that goes all the way back to when we were kids and our family detonated in slow motion. When I was 10 and she was 16, we came home early from school one afternoon and found out our dad wasn't exactly where he said he'd be. I remember the confusion first, then the dread. My sister grabbed my arm in the hallway and whispered, "Don't tell Mom, please, don't ruin everything." I told our mom anyway. I still remember that conversation like it's burned into my brain. My mom's face went pale, then tight, then hollow. My sister never really forgave me for being the one who said it out loud. After the divorce, we moved 2 cities away. New school, new house, new life. She lost her friends right before senior year and blamed me for being the catalyst, even though the real betrayal belonged to our father. As adults, things softened a little. Time dulls edges. She asked me to be a bridesmaid when she married Daniel, and I said yes without hesitation. I wanted to believe we were past it. Daniel's what people would describe as harmlessly sweet, friendly, eager, steady 9-to-5 job. Not particularly deep, not particularly ambitious, but kind. My sister stayed home, and she liked not having to work. A few months ago, she started telling me she felt bored, restless. "I just feel stuck," she said over the phone one night. "Like, this isn't my whole life, you know?" Then suddenly she was better. Seasonal depression, she said, new workout routine, new hair, new energy. I figured she'd worked through whatever slump she'd been in. This week I was in her city for work and thought it would be nice to surprise her with brunch. I picked up her favorite pastries and drove over early. When I pulled into her driveway, there was a pickup truck parked there. It wasn't Daniel's, but she'd mentioned contractors coming by for some small renovation projects, so I shrugged it off. The front door was unlocked. I walked in calling, "Surprise!" with a stupid grin on my face, and then everything froze. I won't go into graphic detail, but there are certain images you can't unsee. My sister scrambling off the couch, a man I've never seen in my life staring at me, completely naked and stunned. The smell of perfume that wasn't hers. The pastry sliding out of my hand and hitting the floor. She gasped my name. Wait, don't! I was already backing toward the door, my vision blurred. I felt my throat closing up, and I didn't even know why I was crying. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the echo of being 10 years old again, standing in a hallway, realizing something ugly was happening inside my own family. I got to my car and drove without even remembering starting the engine. My phone exploded within minutes. Please don't tell anyone. It's not what it looks like. I was going to end it. I'm miserable. You don't understand. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just sat in my hotel room, staring at the wall, trying to reconcile the girl who once begged me not to expose our dad with a woman who is now doing the exact same thing to her own husband. By that evening, I'd made my choice. I called Daniel. He answered cheerfully, "Hey, you in town? We should all grab dinner." I swallowed and said, "Daniel, are you home?" "No, still at work. Why?" There's no easy way to detonate someone's life over the phone. I told him calmly, factually, no embellishment, no theatrics, just what I saw. There was a long silence, then a quiet. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Another silence, then, "Okay, thank you for telling me." He hung up. Within an hour, my sister was calling nonstop, text after text after text. "How could you? You ruined everything. You always ruin everything. I hope you're happy." At one point, she sent, "I want you to die," then deleted it, then sent it again. I didn't reply. The next morning, my mom called. Apparently, Daniel had packed a bag and gone to stay with a friend. He'd confronted her. She denied it at first, then admitted it was only once, which I knew was a lie because no one that comfortable gets caught the first time. My sister's messages turned from rage to desperation. "You don't know what it's like to feel trapped. You've never been married. You destroyed my family." That one almost made me laugh, except it wasn't funny. I didn't sleep with someone else in her living room. I didn't unlock the door and risk being walked in on. I didn't look my husband in the eye for months while betraying him. I told her one final thing. "I didn't destroy your marriage. You did. I just opened the door." That's the whole truth of it. She's been doing this for months, making choices, taking risks, and when the door opened, she blamed the person who walked through it. You didn't create the situation. You just refused to be part of the cover-up. The same way you refused when you were 10. She's angry because you're still the person who tells the truth, and she's still the person who wants it buried. She hasn't stopped texting, but I stopped reading. Daniel's filed for separation. My mom is heartbroken, but not surprised. A few extended family members tried to float the idea that maybe I should have stayed out of it, but I shut that down fast. I've already lived through one family implosion caused by secrecy. I'm not participating in another one. There's something deeply ironic about all of this. At 16, she begged me to protect our father's lie. At 32, she expected me to protect hers. Apparently, I haven't changed. And if she thinks threatening me will make me carry her betrayal in silence, she should know by now I don't do that. And our last story. Now they're gone and their visa was denied. When my wife and I bought our townhouse, we thought we'd found the perfect balance. It was a gated complex, 4 neat rows of homes wrapped around a shared driveway and a community pool. Nothing fancy, but quiet, safe, and mostly filled with families who minded their business and waved when you drove past. Across the driveway from us were units 10 and 11. At first, they were fine. We'd chat in passing. I'd joke with their kids when walking from the car park. And if a soccer ball thudded into our wall too many times, a quick word with the parents fixed it. The kids would get pulled inside, apologies muttered, problem solved. Normal neighbor stuff. Then one night, everything flipped. We had just come home from the movies. Our next-door neighbor on our side of the complex, let's call him Greg, turned into the driveway ahead of us. The driveway's wide enough for 2 cars to pass carefully. Unit 10 had their van parked outside, kids climbing in and out, their mother, let's call her Dana, hovering nearby. Greg crept past the van slowly, no shouting, no drama. My wife followed at the same careful pace. She drove straight past Dana, made eye contact even, and parked in our garage. I got out, hit the roller door, and we reversed inside. 2 minutes later, Dana stormed into our garage like she'd been launched from a cannon. She shoved past me and tried pounding on my wife's window. "You tried to run over my kid," she screamed. My wife rolled the window down because Dana looked ready to smash it. She was pointing, yelling, completely unhinged. I remember thinking how bizarre it was. If my wife had actually endangered her kids, why didn't she react when it happened? Why didn't she confront Greg? Why wait until we were parked and inside our own garage? My wife said calmly, "I drove slowly. I saw your kids." Dana wasn't interested in calm. She stepped closer, cornering my wife in the driver's seat. I moved to intervene, but her husband, let's call him Mark, charged in and grabbed my shoulder. "Don't touch her," he barked. So now I'm held up in the driveway by Mark while Dana leans into our garage, still screaming at my wife. My wife was visibly shaken, but trying to reason with her. That's when Dana crossed the line. She slapped my wife across the face, hard. Her nails left scratches. There was blood. That was it. I'm not a fighter. I avoid conflict whenever possible, but seeing my wife bleeding because someone decided to manufacture outrage? Something snapped. I pulled free, turned, and drove my fist into Mark's stomach. When he tried to block me again, he dropped. I grabbed Dana from behind and dragged her out of our garage, shoving her onto the driveway. "Get off my property," I told them in far less polite language. We went inside and called the police. I didn't hide anything. When the officers arrived, I told them, yes, I punched him. He was restraining me while his wife assaulted mine. They photographed the scratches, took statements, and left. No arrest that night, just paperwork. After that, Units 10 and 11 turned into a tag team of hostility. Glares, insults, snide comments under their breath, a few vague threats muttered loud enough for us to hear. Most of the complex sided with us. People had heard the yelling. Some saw Dana storm in. We weren't going anywhere. We owned our place. They rented. So I escalated, but legally. First, I filed a formal complaint with the property management company. I attached photos, dates, times, and copies of the police report. Then I spoke to their landlord, who happened to own several units in the complex. I laid it all out. He looked concerned, but rent is rent, and concern doesn't always outweigh income. That's when the social consequences kicked in. Turns out when you become known as the couple who assaults neighbors in their own garage, your reputation in a tight-knit community takes a hit. Invitations dried up. Other parents stopped letting their kids play near their door. Management began scrutinizing their noise levels and minor violations with a microscope. Within a month, Unit 10 put in notice. Unit 11 followed a few weeks later. The night the moving truck left, someone in the complex jokingly suggested a pool party. It wasn't exactly a parade, but let's just say nobody was sad to see them go. I thought that was the end of it. Then I remembered something they'd casually mentioned back when we were still friendly. They were on temporary visas, applying for permanent residency. I had a copy of the police report. They had never filed one against us. The official record showed them initiating an assault inside our home. I forwarded the documentation to the appropriate authorities. They thought the fight was over when the moving truck left. They thought the garage incident was just a neighbor dispute that would fade away. They forgot that paperwork lives forever. A police report doesn't expire, and when you're applying to stay in a country permanently, that piece of paper can mean everything. Months later, through a mutual contact, I heard their residency application had been denied. Apparently, violent incidents don't look great when you're asking a country to let you stay permanently. Do I feel guilty? Not even slightly. They stormed into our garage, accused us of attempted harm with zero evidence, cornered my wife, and physically attacked her. That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was a choice. We still live here. The driveway's quiet again. The new neighbors wave. The kids play without drama, and nobody stormed into our garage since. Some people mistake patience for weakness. They learn the difference the hard way. Let's talk about who really won. Story 1 was theater of consequences. Kevin wanted to prove he was in charge. He got his chance, alone, buried in trays, elbow deep in leftovers while a former employee ate dinner and smiled at him. No argument, no shouting match, just a front row seat to his own incompetence. Story 2 was truth as boundary. The sister wanted silence. She got honesty instead. The same honesty she demanded from a 10-year-old decades ago. The difference is now she's the one hiding something, and the OP, still the person who refuses to carry lies, walked away with something her sister will never have, a clean conscience. But story 3 wins, not because of the punch, though sometimes self-defense is justified, but because of the permanence. Dana and Mark thought moving out meant moving on. They forgot that police reports don't pack up with the moving truck. A visa denial isn't neighbor drama. It's a life reset. All because they couldn't let a slow drive past their kids go. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.